For the moment I'm making a spare arbor like this one for the milling machine. And to do so, now I do it on the USSR lathe because of the top slide is still in the right angle to cut the paper. And the second reason why I do it on this machine is because here I can use my yellow power feed. On the Celtic, for the moment I can't. I first have to make some kind of connection system here. Less than 1/100th of taper in this part. I think that's brilliant. Now of course for this part it's not important because I'm gonna make a taper. But I was just curious to know. But now I know this one is good. Alright, that looks good. The taper is finished and as you can see I installed my part here in a Celtic. And I'm ready to cut this decal special thread here. It's a buttress thread. Officially I have to cut 0.2 of a millimeter deeper than it is now, but I think I'm gonna leave it as is. This is close to perfect. These are viewer gift Greatex sticks, a little bit rubbery, as you can see, very soft, and this thing works great, really good stuff. Right. Let's put a little line on here and give it a test fit on the machine. Of course it looks a bit strange, a milling cutter without a cutter, but as I said, this is a spare one. This side I can make whatever I want, but I wanted to check the fit
and it does look good. Take it out again. Right, what do we have? It is squeezing here and in the middle a tiny bit less, and it is squeezing here. So I would call this success. And now that we're here on the milling machine, let's talk a bit coolant, for example. Now, years ago, before I had this machine, I bought a can of this stuff here that I used, of course, in the USSR lathe, and it worked perfectly fine. When I made a part and used the coolant, of course the coolant is all over the machine, and I didn't wipe it, the water in it will vaporize and it leaves an oily finish on all surfaces. And it was great. Didn't really need to clean up my machine. I did, but no really need. And of course, just like anything else, there comes an end to it. So my can was empty and I bought another one, exactly the same brand. But this one, there is a problem. When I used the new mix, which would of course be exactly the same than the old mix, it didn't work. The surface finishes were not that great, not as with the other one. In the mix, with this you use 5% of this in water. And in the original mix, or with this mix, you see a difference of color. You feel a difference of viscosity. But it should be the same normally. Now, after a few weeks in the lathe, it started to smell. And then I bought the milling machine, made the same mix, and it was a total disaster. Everything started to rust the day after I used it, sometimes 2 days. So should be the same, but it isn't. Now it's marked here, not to use below 5 degrees C or not higher than 40 degrees C. This thing is standing always here in my workshop. And I never have lower than 5 degrees C or higher than 40 degrees C here in my workshop. So I don't know what happened, but this stuff doesn't work. And that is why I changed from coolant to oil. Now what's in here is the cheapest motor oil I could find, and I put in 5 liters. And since then, rust is absolutely non-existent. But before I decided to use oil, for a long time I hesitated. Because when you use oil out of some kind of oil can and you put a bit on your workpiece, it is smoking a lot more than coolant, of course. But with this thing I can flood the workpiece and no smoke at all. If I compare the surface finish on finished parts using oil or using coolant, you can't tell the difference, so exactly the same. So that's good. Of course, oil on your machine makes a terrible mess. And the last time I used it was 2 days ago. And as you see, the oil doesn't drain very well. Now, of course, it's also a little bit colder in here. So, because of the viscosity of the oil, it doesn't drain. On the plus side,
I can leave my machine as is for as long as I want. If I don't clean it up for 1 day or for a month, there will be absolutely no change, no rust at all. What I also think is a plus is that the oil is more transparent than the water cooling. So you can see through the oil, the surface finish, you can see what you're doing. Not perfect, but better than with water coolant. And even more important, in my opinion, it drains better the chips than water cooling. Because of the stickiness, the viscosity of the oil, the chip doesn't sink as fast as in water. And because of the oil is draining away, it takes all the chips away also. So that's also good. What I also thought could maybe be a problem is the smell. Here we are in the basement of my house. And when I do some smelly work here, sometimes it smells in the whole house. So that's not good. But this oil, nothing, no smell at all. So in my opinion, there are more positive points on using oil than negative. Of course, you've got to get used to work with always these oily hands, because everything is always full of oil. Now, since I use oil, I also use a lot of kitchen paper. But that's not really a problem, because in the kitchen I use workshop paper. That's not true. And now something completely different, but totally different. Every Wednesday I work as a volunteer in the local refugee center. In this center there are over 300 residents. It's a big and important center, of course. And that also means that there are a lot of doors with a lot of keys. And it happens sometimes that members of the personnel that work there take the keys and put them in their pockets. And then of course after forget to take them out and then bring the keys home. And to prevent it from happening, they asked me to make key fobs. But not any key fobs. They have to be wood and they have to be so big that they don't fit in a pocket, so they can't forget them. And that's why I take a romantic little walk here in the woods with my primitive orange thing here. Let's see what we can find. Of course, I don't want to cut some living branches of the trees. I will see if I can find something that's laying on the floor. Let's go for it. I think I found something useful here. Someone, I suppose the owner of the place, cut down some trees and took all the beautiful wood, but left here the small branches. So that's good, I don't have to cut in living trees or whatever. So
if I take a piece of this one, we're golden. I think I found everything I need. And of course put all in my bag. Let's go back to the workshop and make something. Alright, back at the base camp. And I brought 3 pieces of nature. Because of course I don't remember if I have to make 5 or 8. Just to be sure I will make 8, and so I think I will have enough with these 3 pieces and without destroying nature, so that's good. I think I found a way to hold these things without causing damage on the bark, because I would like to leave it. Perfect. To keep the keys in place, I have these little hooks, but they are open. Looks easy, but it isn't. I think I've got it. Of course, I already made a little pre-hole with my pre-holder here. I think this will work just fine. My first idea was to use anvils as key fobs. They don't fit in a pocket, but I have only one and I would like to keep it. So I think this will be better.